Hello, today we're going to be talking about how to heal your brain when you get sober. So, I'm going to cover a couple of things. I'm going to cover how alcohol affects your brain, and then when you stop drinking, what you can do to heal your brain, because good news, there is lots you can do. Now, if you've followed me for a while, you know that I'm going to tell you that alcohol is one of the worst things you can put in your body, right? If you are thinking about stopping or you have stopped, what I want you to take away from this is the absolute best thing you can do for your health is to not drink alcohol. Like so many parts of your life are going to improve. And a lot of that is to do with the brain. So hopefully that will all be clear by the end of this video. If you need help stopping, if you really have been struggling, I really urge you to check out my program below, the Soberful Method. It is packed with all of my tools and experience of 20 plus years helping people stop sober. It's a go at your own pace, and you can do it in the privacy of your own home, and it's below. Okay, when we drink alcohol, it affects our body really quickly, within minutes, okay? Within 20 minutes of having a drink, our liver is like ramping up to process it and get rid of it as quickly as possible because it's a toxin. So our whole body is affected by alcohol, but it really impacts the brain. And there's different stages that we go through when we drink, right? So the first drink is called subliminal intoxication. And that's when our behavior and judgment may be slightly altered. Then we move on to a feeling of euphoria. And what's happening there is dopamine is being released in your brain. And dopamine is the feel good chemical. So your liver is trying to like process it, and you're putting more alcohol in. So your liver can't keep up. So your intoxication rises and you reach the euphoria excitement stage, right? Which is the buzz. Alcohol is actually a central nervous system depressant. It actually depresses your central nervous system, which is like the slow, sleepy, that kind of stuff. But initially, because it releases dopamine, it kind of activates this kind of like hyper kind of crazy stimulant kind of effect. Now, what's important about the fact that alcohol is stimulating dopamine, the feel good transmitter, is this is more dopamine than our body is generally used to, right? So you're going about your day, going about your life, and there's lots of things that will release dopamine, like hugging your kids, walking the dog, eating nice food, screens, they know what they're doing there. And over time, our brains get used to this flood of dopamine that alcohol releases. And what happens over time is your brain requires more and more dopamine. It's not satisfied with the everyday general dopamine you get from walking the dog or hugging your kids. It's not satisfied with that. It wants the dopamine that only alcohol can trigger, which is why over time you require more and more alcohol to get the same effect. And which is why when you're not drinking, when you're maybe trying to be sober, you can feel quite flat and dull and because your brain is not producing dopamine the way that it's meant to, because it's been so messed up with by alcohol. So it requires time. Your brain requires time to heal so it can begin to get back to normal dopamine function. And dopamine it's the feel good. Dopamine makes us feel happy and rewarded. It's an important part of our brain chemistry. So we need to really allow our brain the time that it needs to get back to this normal functioning. Alcohol also affects serotonin, which regulates our mood and our sleep. So when serotonin is out of whack, again, because it's been messed up by alcohol, you're likely to feel more anxious, depressed, have trouble sleeping, feel like tired. That's how I felt. Like that was me to a T. The day after, like several days after, like alcohol did a number on my serotonin. I would always have anxiety. Like I would be very, very anxious a couple of days after drinking, I'd feel very low. I'd have trouble sleeping. It just, and then this went on for days. This is why it irritates me when people, like, when you're really hungover and people go, "Oh yeah, but it was an amazing night, wasn't it? It was like, it was worth it. It was worth it." No, it was never worth it. It was never like I don't know, 3 or 4 hours we're talking about, maybe, was not worth feeling that bad for 3, 4, 5 days afterwards. Wasn't worth it. That interfered with my life and my functioning way too much, and it's probably interfering with yours way too much. So this is like the cost benefit analysis, right? The night out, which, like, for me, the best part of the whole night, to be honest, was the anticipation. It wasn't the actual night out, it was the anticipation of drinking was always more enjoyable than the actual drinking. So I'd have the anticipation that would last a few hours, and then, like, the first couple of drinks, like with the euphoria and the excitement, right, the dopamine's going, that would feel good. But then I wouldn't be able to stop drinking. So then I would get messy and sloppy and just all of that kind of stuff. So there were several hours of that wasn't fun. And then there was days of just feeling low, depressed and anxious. Not worth it. Just that cost benefit analysis of hours of my life to get maybe a couple of hours of euphoria and excitement wasn't worth it. And this is how I want you to look at it. Our brains are really, really complex. It's not just about chemicals, it's the physical structure of our brain. And alcohol can affect that over time. Heavy drinking can damage brain cells and even shrink brain volume. And then we're getting into very, very dangerous territory when that happens. But it affects all of the parts of our brain that are responsible for memory, learning, and decision making. This is really important, right? During this period of drinking, right? Say I was an abusive drinker for a decade. Certainly when I was intoxicated, I made stupid decisions and said stupid things. But most of my stupid decisions and what I said and behavior that really was out of alignment with my values happened when I wasn't intoxicated, right? It happened when I was dealing with hangovers, when I was anxious, because alcohol impacted my brain. It impacted how I made decisions days, weeks after a binge, right? And all of this is accumulative. So it's not just the period when you are drunk that your brain is affected. It's for days, weeks, months afterwards. I was not my right self. I was not who I really was. We leave ourselves by degrees. I had left, I would do things and say things and I look back and they make no sense to me. But my brain was not functioning the way that it was designed to function. So I'm not going to labor the point, but alcohol, how it affects our brain because of all of this very complicated system of dopamine and serotonin and brain structure, it's going to cause long-term anxiety and depression and all sorts of mental health issues. But the best thing you can do to heal your brain is to stop drinking. Stop drinking. What really heals it, there's two things we can do to accelerate it and to aid it, and I'll tell you about those in just one second. But really, it's time. And it requires at least a year for your brain and your gut and your body and your liver and your emotions and your hormones, because we're all connected, right? It's all connected, to really have time to heal. 30 days is not enough. 3 months is not enough. It takes up to and beyond a year for the serotonin and the dopamine and those complicated systems to start functioning normally, so you can begin to, like, hug your kids, go for a walk, you can eat a nice meal, get some good news, and for your dopamine reward system to be working properly, right? Because that is the only way you're going to stay sober long term. We've got to get the brain functioning back to normal for you to be able to stay sober long term. Now, the two things that you can do to aid that, pretty simple, available to everybody: exercise and connection with other people. Both of those things create dopamine and serotonin, right? So exercise first thing in the morning is going to get all of that, like, pumping, right? So if you are finding, I used to have this, like, I wake up feeling very flat and low, okay, and kind of crawl through the day, and I would use food and other things to try and cheer myself up, right? Exercise, just go for a walk, right? You don't have to do anything crazy like an Ironman or train for a marathon. Just go for a brisk walk for at least 30 minutes. because that will get those chemicals going in your brain. And what's happened is we have all these receptor sites in your brain. Like imagine they're like little cups waiting to have dopamine put in. And because they've been so messed up with alcohol, all those receptor sites are closed up. And what exercise is going to do is going to help those receptor sites open back up again to receive the organically, naturally made dopamine that your brain can make, right? So not only are you in that moment, you're helping yourself feel better and get through your day, you're going to heal your brain with exercise. There's lots of research that supports this. Exercise is going to heal your brain after addiction. Now, connection with other people. If you can exercise with other people, win-win, right? Just walk and have a conversation. There is a complicated chemical reaction that happens when we talk with someone, when we connect with someone, when we have a hug with someone. All of those things set off a chemical reaction in our brain, heals our brain. So you need to be around people, and I'm going to suggest around sober people who understand and can support you, and you need to be moving your body. And if you do that over time, you're going to see a significant change in your mood, how you feel about yourself. And your brain is finally going to get to a point where it's going to be functioning the way that it should. Let me know if that helped. Let me know if you have questions. Check out the program below if you want to get started.